Croeso i chi gyd heno i yn fyw o'r fferm yma yn Rhiwaedog. Fe nhw i di Gwawr Hughes a fi fydd eich gyflwynydd chi am heno. Welcome to you all for tonight's demo farm live here at Rhiwaedog in Bala. My name is Gwawr Hughes and I will be your presenter for this evening. So this event tonight will mainly be in Welsh, therefore there is an English simultaneous translation option available. If you could please click on the Korean option on the interpretation icon on your screen. Hopefully that will be working great for everybody. Dwi'n falch iawn eich bod chi wedi gallu ymuno hefo ni yn fyw yma heno yn Rhiwaedog. Nad ydy hyn yn tueddu fod cystal a digwyddiad ar fferm, da ni am gwneud yn gora i drio dod â chydig o'r fferm yn fyw i chi a hefyd mwyn disgrifio y gwaith sydd yn mynd mlaen yma ar hyn o bryd. Byddai hefyd yn eich annog chi ofyn cwestiynau fel bod ni'n gallu ymateb i beth chi eisiau wybod a hefyd ymateb gen ein panel ni yma heno ac y nifer o arbenigwyr sydd gennym ni hefyd ar y panel. Gallwch chi wneud hyn drwy glicio ar yr eicon Q&A ar waelod eich sgrin a teipio eich negas neu eich cwestiwn i mewn i ni. Felly, yn ymuno fy ni heno, mae yna nifer eang o arbenigwyr sydd wedi bod yn cydweithio hefo ni ar y prosiect yma yn Rhiwaedog. Mae'n cyfranwyr ni heno yn cynnwys Joe Angel, sef milfeddyg o milfeddygfa Wern, sef y milfeddyg yma yn Rhiwaedog, a mae o wedi bod yn cydweithio hefo ni ar y prosiect ffrwythlondeb yma. Yn ail fydd Stephen Fagan o gwmni Mukulhi sydd am arwain i drwy chydig bach mwy o wybodaeth ac disgrifiad o sut mae technoleg Mukulhi yn gweithio. John Richards o Hybegi Cymru sydd am egluro mwy ni am y prosiect Stock Plus sydd ar y gweill ganddyn nhw ar hyn o bryd. Chris Dyler, arbenigwr glaswellt annibynnol sydd wedi bod yn cydweithio'n agos iawn efo y teulu yma'n Rhiwaedog a hefo cyswllt ffermio ar y prosiect glaswellt. Ac yn olaf, Eryl P. Roberts, dwi'n siŵr sydd yn gyfarwydd iawn i nifer ohonoch chi yn yr ardal leol yma ym Meirionydd, sydd am ein tywys ni drwy y wasanaethau cyswllt ffermio a beth sydd ar y gweill ar hyn o bryd. Tydi Eryl ddim di ymuno fy ni hyd yma, ond da ni'n gobeithio mi fydd o hefo ni nes mlaen yn dilyn trafferthion technegol. Ond yn gyntaf oll, fyswn ni'n licio cyflwyno ein ser yma heno, sef Emyr, Dylan ac Aled Jones, Rhiwaedog. Dwi'n hynod o falch a deud y gwir i ddeud bod Rhiwaedog yn un o ffermydd arddangos ci coch cyswllt ffermio yma yn Gogledd Cymru a bod ni'n cael y fraint i gydweithio efo teulu a ffermwyr sydd mor uchel y parch yma yn Meirionydd ac ymhellach draw ledled Cymru a deud y gwir. Da ni'n ddiolchgar iawn bod ni'n cael cyfle i gydweithio hefo chi. Felly, mwyn gwneud cychwyn arni heno, fyswn ni'n licio holi chi os medrwch chi roi dipyn bach o gefndir i'r fferm yma'n Rhiwaedog a hefyd pwy sydd yn ffarmio yma, y teulu ag ati a hefyd da chi'n chydig bach o wybodaeth amdano y stoc a falle da chi'n ffarmio yma. Os gwelwch o dda.
Wel, da ni'n ffarmio mewn partneriaeth yma yn Rhiwaedog. Mae ffarm, wel, yw 300 o geri da ni'n ffarmio i gyd a wedyn da ni'n rhentu ffarm gyfagos sydd, mae honno hefyd tua 300 o geri hefyd. A wedyn, da ni'n stocio rhwng y ddwy, da ni'n stocio rhyw 500 o defaid a 70 o fuchod.
O fedrwch chi ddeud chydig bach mwy wrthon ni am y math o ddefaid da chi'n gadw yma y bridiau ag ati, system ran y pesgu neu gwerthu nhw'n stor a hefyd ychydig mwy o wybodaeth amdano gwertheg ran y bridiau a be di'ch system chi ran y fenter bîff yma?
Wel, mae'r mogiau ebyn hyn, mae 2 o defaid yn defaid groes, sydd yn defaid Texel, Mews, Aberfields ac yn defaid Chifiot, groes Cymraeg. Dim ond 1 rhan o 2 o'n nhw yn defaid Cymraeg sydd yn hwyrach ym mis Ebrill, wyna tu allan, ond dim ond defaid groes i gyd yn wyna trwy'r shed.
O, ia. A felly, ydych chi'n pesgu nhw yma yn Rhiwaedog neu?
Da ni'n pesgu rwy'n i gyd os medrwn ni. Swn i fod 80% o rwy'n yn cael ei gwerthu trwy'r farchnad fyw. Da ni'n gwerthu dipyn o wybeinw i fridio, wybeinw mews i fridio. Mae'n gyfran fach yn mynd i syth i'r lladu.
Dylan, fedrwch chi ddeud chydig bach mwy wrthon ni amdano fenter bîff yma yn Rhiwaedog a sut mae hynny'n gweithio i chi?
Ie, mae'n yw 70 felly o fuchod. Mae'r rhan fwyaf fwy neu lai yn fuchod buddion Cymreig. Wedyn, mae hanner nhw'n mynd i darw du, a wedyn, da ni'n croesi hanner arall fo tarw siarle. Wedyn, mae'r heffrod yn mynd i darw sale rwan ers rhyw 2-4 blynedd, jyst mwyn cael lloian haws. Felly. Wedyn, wrth bod ni'n iwsio tarw du a tarw siarle, da ni'n wedi cael y gorau o 2 fyd. Da ni'n magu'n replacements yn hunain, a wedyn mae'r tarw siarle yn cynhyrchu gwertheg stores marchnadol iawn sy'n dod i bwysau da mewn oedran ifanc. Felly. A wedyn, da ni'n gwerthu'r stores yn 19 mis oed a cadw magu'n heffrod yn hunain. Heffrod duon yn hunain.
Gret. Ac Emyr, mae hon yn bendant yn fenter deuluol iawn. Fedrwch chi ddeud chydig mwy wrthyn ni am y teulu sydd yn ffarmio yma yn Rhiwaedog?
Wel, da ni Lyn a Finne a Roge yn Badneriaid, fel dito ddal. Ac dwi'n gweld y Badneriaid yn gweithio dda iawn, pawb yn cyd-dynnu dda iawn. A Lenni'n enwedig wwan y misoedd dwytha yma. Mae rhywun wedi gorfod gwneud yn hunain yn dydyn. Pan yn y 7 mlynedd dwytha yma, oedden ni'n cael student o Glyn Llifon am 5 wythnos adeg wyna. Ond Lenni, oherwydd yr coronavirus yma, fi roed i'r student fynd adre ar ôl i'w 3 diwrnod. A felly oedden ni'n 4 wrthi'n doedden, a dim ond yn i ddweud y gwir yn de, ond wedi dweud hynny, ar un i gopio nôl iawn, dwi'n meddwl. Yma i ddweud y stori beth
Ie, a digon o wirion a wiresa er mwyn helpu'r dyfodol hefyd, gobeithio?
Ie, gobeithio. Ie, stened o'n diwedd.
Ie, gret. Felly, be di'ch amcanion chi fatha teulu ar gyfer y busnes i'r dyfodol mewn ffordd? Be di'ch prif dargeda chi a'ch prif nod chi fyswch chi licio gyrraedd o fewn yr 5-10 mlynedd nesaf yma?
Wel, dwi'n meddwl, sgenna ni'n planiau mawr i wneud i byd yn wahanol. Dwi'n meddwl jyst bod ni'n trio wneud y gorau o bob dim sydd genna ni ar y ffarm. Trio cael mwy allan o'r defaid a gwartheg a'r blaswell da ni'n cynhyrchu fel bod rwy'n yn gallu. Torri costau lawr, bod ni'n gallu bod yn fwy proffidiol a gwynebu'r y diwrnod yna lle fydd ddim taledu'n dod trwy post.
Ie, yn bendant. Wel, mae effeithlonrwydd yn rhan pwysig iawn ac yn rhan anatod o'r prosiectau da ni wedi bod yn gynllunio ac yn gweithredu yma hefo chi. A wedyn, mae hyn yn arwain ni i drafod dipyn mwy amdano y prosiectau yna a beth gennyn ni ar y gweill yma yn Rhiwaedog hefo chi ar hyn o bryd. Felly mae gennym ni 2 brosiect sydd ar y gweill yn Rhiwaedog ar hyn o bryd. Y cyntaf yn edrych ar ffrwythlondeb o fewn y fuches, ac yr ail wedyn yn canolbwyntio ar wella effeithlonrwydd y system drwy gwneud gwell defnydd o laswellt. Enghraifft, Aled, sut fyddwch chi'n bwriadu gwneud gwell defnydd o'r glaswellt yma? Be ydy'r prif resymau pan bod chi eisiau gwneud hynny? Ydy o ar gyfer lleihau costa ran costa bwydo wyn, cripio wyn ag ati neu?
Ie, dwi'n meddwl yn y gorffennol, falle da ni wedi bod yn orddibynnol ar orffen yr wyn gan fynd i'r bag. Wel, se rwy'n licio gwneud i ffwr, wel lot o costau yno, a bod ni'n gallu besgu rwy'n oddi ar y borfa, bod hynny falle trwy ddysbiad mwy lawr y ffordd o'r herbal lace yma, fatha da ni wedi gwneud yn y prosiect yma, bod rwy'n gallu pesgu mwy oddi ar y borfa.
Ie, yn bendant. Wedyn, drwy symud ymlaen o hynna, dyd y gwir, cofiwch hefyd am rai o wasanaethau cyswllt ffermio sydd yn gallu bod yn fuddiol iawn i'ch busnes. Enghraifft, ydyn cynnig 80% tuag at cyngor 1-1 sydd yn cynnwys nifer eang o wahanol bynciau megis busnes, technoleg, rheoli porfa, maeth, enghraifft. A wedyn, mae eisiau, gwnewch y mwyaf ar cyfleoedd hynny ac manteisiwch ar y cyngor sydd yna ar eich cyfer chi. Felly, nawn ni symud ymlaen wan i siarad ychydig bach mwy ac i fewn i fwy o fanylder ar gyfer y prosiect ffrwythlondeb yn y fuches sydd yn mynd ymlaen yma yn Rhiwaedog. Felly, fedrwch chi jyst rhoi dipyn o gefndir i'r prosiect ran pam da chi wedi penderfynu ffocysu ar ffrwythlondeb o fewn y fuches bîff yma yn Rhiwaedog? Os yna unrhyw resymau penodol pam bod chi wedi dewis mynd lawr y lôn yna mewn ffordd hefo'r prosiect?
Wel, licio tynhau y cyfnod lloia fysa ni, dyna be oedd y prif amcan ni wrth fynd mewn iddo'n dechrau. Yn ideali, sy'n ni'n licio cael treuan y fuches falle'n lloia chwefror i Ebrill, a wedyn y gweddill yn dod Mai a Mehefin. Ond yn ystod y blynyddoedd dwytha yma, mae dipyn wedi slipio ymlaen i loia diwedd yr ha. Rheswm mwyaf am hynny oedd gyson ni darw nath gael gweithio fel y dylse fo rhyw chydig blynyddoedd yn ôl. Wedyn mae hynny wedi pwysio lot ar buchod. Wel, mwy na den isio i loia ymlaen i ddiwedd yr ha. Wedyn sy'n ni licio tynnu hynny nôl i loia Mai a Mehefin.
Ie. Ie, so o ran eich safona ffrwythlondeb hyd yma, a'i tynhau'r patrwm lloiad i'r unig not gynnoch chi, neu os yna unrhyw beth arall o ran cynyddu conception rates neu ati, fysa chi'n licio gyflawni drwy wneud y gwaith prosiect yma?
Wel, tynhau, dyna di'r prif beth da ni eisiau gwneud, tynhau o fel bod ni ddim yn lloia am bell mlaen i'r ha.
Ie.
Mae'n Cafing index ni lenni hyd yma yw 376 diwrnod wedi bod hyd yma. Ond hynny, mae'n ychydig o fuchod yn dal heb loia. Wedyn mae erbyn fydd y hyn i gyd wedi dod, mae hwnnw yn mynd i fod rhywfaint yn fwy. Mae nhw wedi rengio 339 diwrnod i 450 diwrnod y rhai sydd wedi dod hyd yma. A wedyn, bod yr average o 376 ddim yr rhy ddrwg, sy'n ni'n licio bod wedi gorffen lloia mwy na lai mis Mehefin, lle wedyn fysa gennym ni loiau bwns debycach i'w gilydd ac yn haws, management nhw'n haws o gael lloiau'r un oedran.
Ie, bendant. Os yna unrhyw reswm penodol pam bod chi'n teimlo fatha bod o wedi ymestyn yn fwy na oeddech chi isio, neu os ydych chi licio gael mewn ffordd lle unrhyw broblemau ffrwythlondeb ran teirw neu be bynnag wedi bod yn y gorffennol lle?
Wel, do, gisio ni un tarw chydig blynyddoedd yn ôl nath. Oedd wedi gweithio'n iawn am 2 flynedd, a wedyn y trydedd blwyddyn nath o at buchod fel arfer, a falle bod ni'n wedi cymryd yn ganiataol bod o'n mynd i weithio fel arfer, ond nath o ddim. Felly, ac erbyn i ni ffindio allan nad oedd o'n gweithio'n iawn, oedd lot o buchod wedi slipio. A wedyn, dyna oedd y prif reswm, dwi'n meddwl, pam bod ni wedi colli'r patrwm lloia arferol. Ond
mae pethau, da chi'n gweld, maen nhw'n dod yn ôl i drefn wan lle, a da ni'n gobeithio efo'r prosiect yma fyddwn ni'n cyd-tynhau pethau ymhellach os yn bosib lle. Wedyn, be ydy'ch barn chi hyd yma o'r technoleg Mukulhi da chi wedi bod yn ddefnyddio yma yn Rhiwaedog ar gyfer y prosiect ffrwythlondeb?
Yndi, hyd yma mae pethau i weld yn edrych yn ddefnyddiol iawn lle. Da ni'n cael text ar yn ffôn bob tro mae buwch yn gofyn tarw lle. A wedyn mae yr app ar y ffôn yn cadw comnod o pob buwch sydd wedi gofyn tarw. A pob un sydd heb fod yn gofyn tarw lle, a wedyn mewn 2 wsos, da ni'n gallu cael rhestr o prai sydd wedi ail-ofyn a prai da chi'n gobeithio os nad un wedi ail-ofyn sy'n gyflol ynde. Wedyn mae hynny'n ddefnyddiol ofnadwy hyd yma, ond da ni'n gobeithio cael sganio mewn wsos nesaf i fod 100% yn siŵr bod y result y sganio yn cyd-fynd â beth da ni wedi weld ar yr technoleg Mukulhi.
Ie. A wedyn, be fyddwch chi'n neud wedyn hefo'r buchod sydd ddim wedi ymddangos bod nhw wedi sefyll tarw hyd yma? Be di'r cam nesaf efo rheini wedyn?
Wel, edrwn ni'n gael y vet ato ni wedyn i ymchwilio pam so oes yna fuchod unigol heb fod yn gofyn tarw. Ellwn ni gael vet i syncroneisio nhw neu archwilio i weld beth di'r broblem lle. Mae hefyd o ddefnyddiol yr enghraifft lenni o gennym ni darw newydd ac pan math hwnnw allan at y buchod doedd gennym ni'n garanti bod o'n mynd i gyfloi nhw, ond efo'r technoleg yma oedden ni'n gweld bod y buchod yn gofyn tarw ac oedden ni'n gweld nhw wedyn o fewn 2 wsos bod nhw ddim yn ail-ofyn, wedyn oedden ni'n eitha saff bod y tarw'n gweithio.
Ie. O, gret. Felly, Aled, be fydd llwyddiant o'r prosiect yma'n edrych fel? Enghraifft, be fyddwch chi'n rhagweld fydd yr prif fanteision fydd yn dod o canlyniadau a canfyddiadau yn ystod y prosiect yma ar gyfer eich system chi yma'n Rhiwaedog?
Wel, swn i feddwl mai y canlyniadau gorau, swn i ddisgwyl fysa bod y cyfnod lloia yn dod nes at ei gilydd, ynddo?
Ie.
Mae'r Mukulhi yma, mae o'n rhoi tawelwch meddwl i rywun rwsyd yn aml iawn y gorffennol, fel da ni'n troi tarw allan at y buchod y mis Mae a jyst gobeithio gorau a falle da ni'n gwybod beth sy'n digwydd allan y cae, da ni'n gweld nhw ddigon aml hyd od os da ni'n gweld nhw unwaith ddwywaith y dydd falle. Yn aml iawn, da ni'n gweld buchod yn cymryd tarw, wedyn mae hwn, da chi'n gwybod am yn eich poced chi, da chi'n gwybod, da chi'n cael text i ddeud pa mae buwch yn gofyn tarw, ac os ydy'n ail ofyn, so mae'n rhaid i'w dawelwch meddwl i chi bod y tarw yn neud i waith a bod y buchod yn gofyn tarw yna.
Ie, ac yn bendant, dwi'n siŵr bod o fydd hefyd i'r milfeddyg Joe sydd yn gweithio efo chi ar y prosiect wedyn hefyd i allu ymchwilio yn benodol i'r rhai buchod hynny sydd heb wedi gofyn hyd yn hyn lle, a bod o yn well defnydd o'i amser o pan mae'n ymweld â chi hefyd mewn ffordd lle. Felly, Dylan, be di'r heriau mwyaf sydd wedi bod hyd yma ynghlwm hefo y prosiect ac hefyd efo'r technoleg Mukulhi yma'n benodol?
Gison ni'n bach o helbyl yn y dechrau efo'r tagiau, ond ar ôl ymchwilio peiriant tagio ni oedd y baich am hynny, wedyn gison ni job tagio rhai o'r buchod yn dechrau. Mae'n amlwg bod yna fwy o waith yn y flwyddyn gyntaf wrth bod eisiau tagio'r buchod i gyd. Ar ôl y flwyddyn gyntaf, dim ond yr heffrod fynd dod i mewn at bob blwyddyn fydd angen i tagio.
Ie. Mae'r sut ydych chi'n gweld y gwaith setio fyny a felly ar gyfer y technoleg mae hyd yma?
Dwi'n weld o'n technoleg wych iawn, de. Do'n i'n gwybod dim byd amdano fo tan leni. Ac dwi'n siŵr bydd o'n help ofnadwy, de. A fydd o'n help hefyd i bobl eraill bydd wrth bod ni'n drealu allan. Bydd ffermwyr eraill yn cael gweld, diolch mynd i siwtio nhw. Ie, bendant.
Wel, dyna di'r gobaith a deud y gwir bod ni'n gallu rhannu yr wybodaeth a'r canlyniadau da ni'n gael yma yn Rhiwaedog efo ffermwyr eraill a bod nhw yna wedyn gallu ystyried os ydi o'n opsiwn i wella i busnesau nhw hefyd. Felly diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am hynny. Yn anffodus, ni all Joe y milfeddyg ymuno efo ni heno, ond mae wedi gyrru fideo i ni ymlaen llaw sydd yr eich di bach mwy o gefndir i'r prosiect ac trafod cynnydd a unrhyw beth ydyn ni wedi ddarganfod hyd yn hyn. Felly, a hefyd ar yr un nod hefyd, cofiwch os oes gennych chi unrhyw gwestiynau wrth i ni fynd ymlaen, yna i'r panel neu'r arbenigwyr, mae'n groeso i chi ar nhw mewn i ni yn fyw. Hefyd, os oes gennych chi unrhyw gwestiwn penodol ar gyfer Joe, mae'n groeso i chi ar nhw mewn a dwi'n siŵr fydden ni basio nhw ymlaen i chi ac e-bostio chi hefo ateb ar gyfer rheini chi. Felly, os gown ni fideo Joe, os gwelwch y dda, o'r prosiect ffrwythlondeb yma yn Rhiwaedog.
Hello, my name is Joe Angel and I'm a veterinary surgeon working for Wern Vet in North Wales, and I've been asked to help out with the beef fertility project running at Rhiwaedog Farm. This project was set up for two reasons. Firstly, over time the calving pattern at Rhiwaedog had become considerably extended, such that cows were calving over too long a period of time. This has created problems with managing calves and rearing animals to sell. Also, Dylan and Aled were interested in using the Mukulhi heat detection collar as an aid to improving the management of fertility within the herd. In these series of graphs you can see how long the calving period is. So what I've done here is just graph the numbers of cows calving over time. So we've got time along the bottom, and you can see that here in 2016 calving starts in January and goes through to September, with a majority of the cows calving sometime in May. It's quite a long period of nearly 9 months calving. Then in 2017 we've got a similar pattern with a few more calving in April, and then again the majority calving in late spring, early summer around June, but again the calving period going from January now through to October. Then again in 2018 we've got quite a few calving early on, but then again the majority in late spring, early summer, but again the calving interval period going through till the end of September. And then finally in 2019 again a long calving period, but with quite a few calving early on, and then the majority calving more into the summer at this point. Cows can comfortably bring a calf every year, but if this interval between calvings is longer than a year, then the cow becomes a cost in terms of keeping her without the return from her offspring. In addition, if cows are allowed to take longer between calvings, then it can be harder to get them in calf, and it can increase the difficulties associated with calving. For example, cows taking a long time to get pregnant can easily become too fat by the time they calve, increasing the risk of calving difficulties with knock-on effects to the health of the cow and the calf. So there are financial and health and welfare benefits to ensuring cows become pregnant within an optimal period. This period may vary between farms. However, at Rhiwaedog we wanted to calve cows roughly in 2 groups in late spring. The 2 groups allow for easier downstream management of the calves, and the timing is to take advantage of expected grass growth and the opportunity to make use of outside space. So, with the combined aim of reducing the calving interval for some cows and in shortening the calving period, we devised the following plan. The Mukulhi collar was fitted to 2 bulls in order to identify early which cows were served. Then we planned to scan these cows at about 30 days post-service to determine if they were pregnant. This meant that cows that were not pregnant could be investigated for problems that might have affected their ability to conceive. We also planned to scan cows that had been with the bull for 3 to 4 weeks and had not been served. Examination of the ovaries from these cows meant we could see if there were any problems here that might affect conception. For those cows that were scanned and observed to not be cycling, or only very weakly, we then used a hormone synchronization program to kickstart the ovulation process. This means that these cows are not allowed to carry on with dormant ovaries indefinitely, and these actions, we hope, will ensure these cows get in calf sooner than they would otherwise, and so reduce any further extension of their calving interval. In addition, we hope to gradually bring cows forward, so by getting them in calf earlier, using the synchronization process, then they should calve earlier the following year, thereby contracting the calving period. In addition to focusing on the fertility of the cows, improving heat detection and investigating and dealing with problem cows, it was also important to consider the fertility of the bulls. To that end, we arranged for fertility testing of the bulls with one of my colleagues, Emma Sale, to determine whether the bulls were likely to be able to get cows in calf. So, what have we achieved so far? Well, things have been slightly more awkward due to a certain ongoing pandemic. However, the Mukulhi heat collars have been deployed and they appear to be working very well. Cows are being identified by the collar, and when we scan them, they are in calf. Some cows have had dormant or non-cycling ovaries, and so we have synchronized these as described, and they have been subsequently served. We are still some way from evaluating how much progress has been made this year, but the plan is certainly being actioned. It has been challenging being able to scan the cows as frequently as we would have liked, in that not all the grazing that is used has easy access to suitable handling facilities. This may mean that cows that need interventions are delayed in having them, which may impact on our ability to achieve the aims, but this is a practical problem encountered on many farms and not one that is unique to Rhiwaedog. Moving forward, we will continue this process throughout the summer and then try and evaluate how well it has worked this year, before deciding if we want to make any changes in the future.
Diolch yn fawr iawn i Jo am baratoi y fideo yna ar ein cyfar ni. Chydig o gwestiynau sydd yn dod i mewn ar hyn o bryd. Mae Dewin gofyn beth ydy'ch statws BVD ar hyn o bryd yma yn Rhiwaedog?
Da ni wedi bod yn rhan o gynllun iechyd SAC dros 20 mlynedd, dwi'n meddwl, a da ni'n accredited o BVD dwi'n meddwl 2004, a da ni wedi bod yn cymryd rhan yn y cynllun gwaredu BVD ag yn y cynulliad yr rhedeg ys rhyw 2 blynedd. Felly, da ni'n lan o BVD.
Gret. Hoffwn atgoffa ffermwyr hefyd bod y cynllun gwaredu BVD wan wedi cael estyniad hyd at 31 o Fawrth 2021 hefyd, felly rhywbeth yn bendant i gymeryd mantais ohono mwyn gallu gwella iechyd y fuches. Ambell gwestiwn arall wedi dod i mewn. Mae rhywun yn gofyn beth ydy'r costa sydd yn gysylltiedig efo defnyddio system Mukulhi. Mi ddown ni ymlaen i hynny yn y cyfnod nesaf pan fyddwn ni yn siarad efo Stephen Figan o Mukulhi, os ydy hynny'n oce. Hefyd mae Aled Jones yn gofyn, os ydych chi hyd yma wedi darganfod bod y technoleg yn gweithio yn well neu bod chi'n cael mwy o ymateb o darw ifanc yn hytrach na tarw hen. Mae Aled yma'n awgrymu eich bod tarw ifanc yn cynhyrfu mwy na eich fysa tarw hun. Ydych chi'n gweld unrhyw wahaniaeth rhwng y teirw neu ydy o'n rhywbeth eitha cyson ar hyn o bryd?
Na, swn i'n dweud bod ni wedi ffindio dim gwahaniaeth efo hynny o ran hyd yma bymrach.
Be wnaethon ni weld efo wrth droed tarw at heffrod, oedd yr heffrod yn dieddol oedden ni cael text ar y ffôn yn dweud o fewn y 3 diwrnod cyntaf i droi tarw at yr heffrod. Yn ôl y Mukulhi, mae oedden nhw gyd wedi cymryd tarw, wel, mae'n chwilio mai tarw oedd yn reit excited ar heffrod, oedd nhw wedi cael mynd ato, mae'n siŵr gen i, ydyn falle bod hynny yn bod i weld pa fydd ni'n sganio nhw, ond mae hynny yn
O gret, ond eich bod hynna'n gwestiwn ar gyfer yr section nesaf mewn ffordd, ar gyfer Stephen hefyd, eich fysa fo'n ymwybodol o enghreifftiau eraill os ydy hynny'n digwydd a'i peidio. Hefyd, cwestiwn arall wedi dod i mewn ar gyfer chi yma. Ydy'r heffrod yn cael ei rheoli'n wahanol i weddill y buchod? Ydyn nhw'n lloian gynt neu ydych chi'n defnyddio teirw gwahanol sydd yn lloian haws? Wel, dwi'n gwybod bod chi wedi crybwyll bod chi yn defnyddio tarw saler mwyn lloian haws ar gyfer yr heffrod. O ran rheolaeth wedyn a rheoli yr heffrod hynny, ydyn nhw'n lloia yn wahanol i'r buchod neu sydd ydych chi'n gwneud?
Da ni wedi dechrau mynd i roi tarw i heffrod yn gynt fel bod ni'n cael nhw i loio'n gynt. Fel bod nhw'n cael lle bod, os dyn nhw'n dod â lloiau tan, wel, mis Mehefin yn heffrod, wel, mae'n anodd iawn wedyn cael nhw i ennill i ddod yn ystod y gryll Mae, dydy. So, mae hynny'n un peth da ni'n trio wneud o wahanol.
Felly, da ni wedi bod yn trafod chydig amdan y technoleg Mukulhi mae gati, da ni wedi bod yn ddefnyddio yma. Felly, da ni am symud ymlaen i'n ail siaradwr heno, sef Stephen Figan o gwmni Mukulhi, sydd yn ymuno hefo ni'n fyw o Iwerddon heno. Mae Stephen am sôn chydig mwy am sut mae'r technoleg yma yn gweithio ag ati, a hefyd mae o'n mynd i chi rei chdi bach mwy o wybodaeth cefndirol ran costa ac hefyd pethau technegol. Enghraifft, da ni wedi cael cwestiwn yn gofyn pa mor hir mae batri y colar sydd ar y teirw'n bara, lle da ni'n gobeithio fedar Stephen ateb heini ni yn ystod ei gyflwyniad hefyd. So welcome Stephen and thank you for joining us tonight. So can you tell us a bit more about the Mukulhi technology and how it works as well, please?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks very much for obviously having us on. Unfortunately, I don't speak any Welsh, so I hope you can all understand my Irish accent okay. When Mukulhi asked to be part of this project, obviously we were delighted to be able to demonstrate really how the system works and also how it can obviously bring huge benefits to the likes of whether you're using a stock bull, for example, or you're using AI for your breeding season, just to make the farmer's time more efficient. Obviously, you're not checking on cows on a regular basis or checking that the bull is functioning correctly. So that's obviously where we put our huge focus on in the farmer's time and making it more efficient, especially from a breeding management point of view. So just to give you a slight bit of a background really on ourselves, I suppose we're obviously based here in Dublin in Ireland. We have a team of about 15 to 20 people. Currently we've been working remotely for the last number of months, understandably, but I suppose we have two products that we have for the last number of years. So we started out obviously with the Mukulhi calving sensor, which a lot of you may be familiar with, and then in 2017 we released our heat detection system. So just to start really, and just to give you a brief, everyone that's watching, a brief understanding as to how the system works, I'm just going to show you a short video just to demonstrate this. Now, so I hope you all enjoyed that, just a quick video. So as you can see, really, the system itself, I suppose we're utilizing the bull and we're working on the back of nature really to operate and to indicate when heats are present for the farmer, and obviously to know exactly when cows have been served and when to make sure that your bull is working correctly. So our algorithm itself is based on 3 core elements, and it's a measure of these elements, and we're obviously able to depict exactly when the bull has been serving the cow or been with the cow. So we're working off your activity, so the amount of activity that includes your mounting periods and movement around each specific cow that's in the field, the time threshold, so the amount of time that the bull spends with a specific cow in comparison to other cows that may be in the field as well, as you can see from both the video and from the guy's farm. And also the proximity, so the distance between that specific tag in the fields compared to all the other tags that the bull is actually dealing with. So what's it telling the farmer? Well, it's telling you the exact standing time of heat. So whether you're using AI, for example, artificial insemination, it'll be able to indicate to you exactly when you should be serving the cow, and also from a stock bull point of view as to when cows are actually being served by the bull in the field or in the shed. You're being alerted to all heats, so whether they're normal heats or you may have shorter or silent heats, and also for any cows which may have issues that could be cystic. It'll also help you to identify any cows which are not cycling correctly. And this is one of the biggest issues for a good few of your breeding season, to try identify these cows early in order to get your vet to check them out. Also, if you have any fertility issues with your bull, obviously this will be very apparent, especially earlier on in the season, where you could have, in the first 3 weeks, and you're assuming that all your cows are after being served, but they're all coming back in heat again, and our system is picking them up. So identifying cows that are in calf and also ones that are empty is our main goal here. So and obviously all the information that the collar picks up on, it's all translated into the Mukulhi breed management app, which is a free app for your smartphone. So the tags that you're obviously putting into the ear, they're a specific Mukulhi tag, and they work off, they have a chip inside the tag, and it's only being read by the Mukulhi collars themselves. And this tag is just assigned, as you've seen in the video, to the cow, either name or number, and that's how we identify what cows are in heat and when they're in heat. So obviously the importance of heat detection, I mean, as the guys had said, you know, if you do have a bull which isn't fertile or even subfertile, it can cause a lot of issues. So being able to observe your bull on a daily basis and to obviously pick up on what he's doing is so important. And obviously in the long run, it's going to benefit your herd from a breeding point of view. If you're trying to either compact your calving season or try identify cows which aren't in calf at all, this will be able to eliminate the need for having to, I suppose, go out and check cows on a regular basis and make sure that everything is in calf at the end of the season. So I suppose failure to detect any heats and errors in heat detection are two of the primary causes of poor reproductive performance and low reproductive efficiency. One of the most interesting things as well, I suppose, to observe is at night time as well, what we were able to find is, you know, especially when you're not there to obviously observe the cows, is where 60 to 75% of your heats actually are taking place at nighttime, where activity amongst the herd is a lot lower. So that allows when, you know, estrus is in place, that the farmer or that the bull will be able to pick up on heat a lot easier and pick up on the start of heat durations as well. So from a bull performance point of view, I mean, 4% of all bulls are infertile and up to 20% of bulls are subfertile. Now, subfertile bulls can cause a bit of a headache, especially, you know, if you have some cows in calf and some cows aren't in calf. You know, that's why it's so important to have bulls fertility tested well in advance of the season taking place, just to eliminate those issues for you going forward. So a good heat detection system can indicate, you know, both of these scenarios to you and early on. So I suppose the advantages from both a stock bull point of view and a vasectomized teaser bull point of view for AI use. For your stock bull, I mean, ideally, it does eliminate your need for actually scanning at the end of the season, because we're accurately able to tell you exactly what cows have been served, when they were in heat, how many cycles of heat that they've had, and if they have held insemination. Ultimately, we're able to provide you with your calving due dates at the end of the season, and obviously the time that you're saving in comparison to daily observation throughout your day. Also, for vasectomized bulls that you're using for AI use, timing of AI is obviously extremely critical. So you don't want to be putting in AI straws at the incorrect time where the egg isn't fertile yet, because you're also just wasting your own time, and you're obviously maybe causing harm to the cow, and you're wasting money at the end of the day. So obviously, to improve your genetics, timing of AI is obviously critical, so you're not wasting any straws. And obviously, it's a very cost-effective solution. So on accuracy, I suppose we're kind of gone through a good few of our breeding seasons now at the moment. The last number of months, especially for spring calving herds, would be finished breeding around this time. So I suppose from last year's study, we were able to achieve, you know, if you're trying to obtain a tight, compact calving season, we were able to obtain a 96.5% 3-week submission rate, you know, which is quite substantial, trying to compact your calving season as much as possible. And from that 3-week, we were able to achieve almost an 80% 3-week conception rate. So of all the heats that were picked up at the start of the season, we were able to indicate that those cows were in calf and held insemination to the first serve. So as demonstrated just in our Mukulhi app that we have, so it's a free app that you're able to download, and I suppose it's a breed management tool. So all the information that the bull is liaising with the farmer is updated into the app accordingly. So, you know, everything is automated from the point of when a heat is detected to when an insemination occurs, and also to when cows are deemed in calf by the system. So it's very easy data to follow, and you'll have everything at the touch of your fingers, being able to identify exactly what's going on throughout your herd at any point, and be able to actually pick out cows that you may want to inspect or to have visually inspected by the vet. Also, our other product there as well is our Mukulhi calving sensor, which I said a lot of you may be aware of. So this, again, it's a similar type product that we're also using GSM networks to connect to your mobile phone network to send out your text messages to the farmer when the event occurs. So this device just literally attaches to the back of the cow's tail, and it sends a text message to the farmer's phone exactly when the cow is coming into calf. So I suppose we're working on a spinal contraction in the tail that actually it's picking up on that tail movement, and once the algorithm is met, we trigger out that text message just to make sure that you're not missing any calvings because you're not being there, basically. So with our solution on the calving sensor so far to date, we've actually detected over 500,000 births since 2014 with the Mukulhi calving sensor. And also we've been trying to, I suppose, reduce, our overall goal is to reduce mortality rates on farms, and we've managed to do that down to 0.5% of people who actually use our product, and this is due to timely intervention. So being there on time when the cow is actually giving birth and picking up on that calving. So ultimately that gives you the opportunity to improve your colostrum management and give the calf the best start to life as well. So that's really it. I know that there was a couple of questions therein just regarding the cost of the system. So the system itself, the collar it's at £1,095 sterling, and that gives you one collar, and you actually get 50 ear tags with that system. So it does depend on the size of your herd. Typically, like in the guy's case where they have 70 cows, we would normally say like one collar would do up to 50 cows, and that's why we kind of have that recommended ratio. So if you do have above that, you would need an additional collar. So like one bull to every 50 cows, or two bulls to every 100 cows. So each year there is a renewal similarly to the calving sensor. And this is to keep the mobile phone network connected to the device throughout the full year. So whether you're breeding all year round or you're breeding for a select few months in the year, there's a renewal then of £255 per year to keep that device connected up to your mobile phone network. For any heifers that you're also bringing in each year, obviously you will need the additional tags to put those in. You can purchase further tags, which do come typically in boxes of 25 tags for £75 sterling for that as well. Also, just to address the other question there, just in about bulls as well, I suppose there is a difference that we have found between younger bulls and older bulls. Not so much insofar as picking up on heat detection, but it's more so in the activity that they would relay over the course of a day. So the amount of ground that a bull would cover, we find that younger bulls actually would spend longer with cows that are in heat compared to older bulls, which typically can become slightly lazy, as they actually get older as well. But performance-wise, with the collar will adjust to it. It's an actually adjustable. It's an algorithm that adjusts to the environment it's under. So we're able to determine, depending on the amount of cows that are in the field and the bull performance, what works best for your system. So that's kind of just to give you an overview on that. We would see it, and especially if you're bringing in a vasectomized bull, typically around 18 months of age or 16 months of age, for picking up on AI use. Normally they are younger bulls, and we do see higher rates of activity with those. So I hope that clarifies them couple of questions there for you.
Great, thank you, Stephen. I'm sure that was very useful for all of us, just to have a better idea really on how the technology works. So we do have some additional questions which have just come in now. Stephen, if we can have Stephen up on the screen, please, while we are asking the so one of the questions, how long does the bull collar battery last normally?
Yeah. So the battery will last typically around 6 to 8 weeks. It does depend on, I suppose, the amount of cows that the bull is actually dealing with in the field. But it is a rechargeable battery. So typically your low battery message when the device hits 15%, and this allows you obviously to take the collar off the bull, and it typically takes around 6 hours for it from flat to 100%, and then you can put it back on the bull again for another 6 to 8 weeks. So normally the case, like I suppose with around 40 to 50 cows, we would see you reaching more so to the 80 or 8 week mark.
That's great. Thank you, Stephen. And a few more questions also coming in for you. Are the tags reusable? Can they be used on another cow if the original cow has left the farm, for example? Yeah, is that possible at all, or would you need to purchase more tags for different cows?
I suppose for the additional tags, you would need to put in, because we actually assign that cow to that specific. You see, there's a little chip inside each of the tags. So once we assign that RFID chip to the cow number, the cow ID, that actually stays with that cow for the duration that she is on your farm. So typically, for any new cows or new heifers that you're bringing into the herd, we'd always advise to put a new tag into that cow's ear as well. I suppose over years as well, of using the tags, we'd always just advise to put in fresh tags every time you have a new cow or heifer that's on the farm. It's just from a maintenance point of view with the tag as well. I suppose you could have a cow on your farm for 10 plus years, but I mean, like, realistically, the tags would want to be bulletproof in order to last forever. So that's why we would say any new cows that you have, they'd last the duration that the cow is on your farm.
Excellent, thank you, Stephen. And could I also encourage people to carry on sending in questions as well, if possible, please. This is your opportunity to ask the experts tonight. One final question at the moment for you, Stephen, unless any others pop up. How many users can use the app for the same farm? So, for example, here at Rhiwaedog, we have Aled and Dylan. And I don't know how it is with new technology, but is there a potential for different users to access the app?
Yeah, absolutely. There actually can be, really, per account, there can be a limited users on the app. So, if there's, 5 family members that want to be on it, or even a neighbor or anything like that, or even if your vet wanted to be on the app as well and just view your farm, they can all be logged in simultaneously and add information. So there's no restrictions in place at all there.
Great, thank you, Stephen. I'm fully aware that we are using that approach at Rhiwaedog with Aled and Dylan with the apps on their phone, with Joe, the vet, also having access to that to keep an eye out as well. So wrth symud ymlaen, un cwestiwn arall sydd wedi dod I mewn gan Paul Caehaidd heno. Mae o'n gofyn beth yw'r system syncio da chi'n ei ddefnyddio a sut hwyl da chi'n gael arni. Nathon ni sôn yn flaenorol bod Joe yn ymchwilio I unrhyw fuchod oedd ddim yn gofyn tarw, a bod ni wedyn yn syncio nhw mwyn ceisio cael nhw I ofyn, a bod y patrwm llwyau ddim yn mynd, ddim yn cael ei ymestyn yn hirach mewn ffordd. So beth yw'r system syncio fyddwch chi'n ddefnyddio yma pan fydd Joe yn gwneud hynny?
Wel, pryd ni sa'n iwsio, pam ddoth o'i sbiad y buchod tro dwytha yma, mae'n bedair I mynd I dangos bod nhw wedi bod yn gofyn tarw o gwbl, lle wedyn oedd o pryd sy'n hini. Den ni heb sganio nhw eto I wybod yn 100%, ond mae yna un o'n nhw wedi ailofyn. Den ni wedi gweld hynny drwy'r Mukulhi app, felly ynde. Neison ni syncroneisio 8, dwi'n meddwl, diwedd yr hall yna, I drio ennill ryw fis ar hynny. AI neison ni iwsio trono, ond tair allan o 8 nath sefyll tro cyntaf.
One other question which has just come in now at the end for Stephen, if we could go back to Stephen if possible, please. Linda Davis is asking, how does the Mukulhi technology work with artificial insemination?
Yeah, so I suppose you'd need, for artificial insemination, you do need to have a vasectomized bull. So because we are utilizing the bull and we're solely using the bull that's actually in the field, you will need a bull present, and that's obviously to stimulate that the heats are there. So with a vasectomized bull, we typically would I suppose get farmers to vasectomize them anywhere from 10 plus months and use bulls. Typically you'd want to give around 6 to 8 weeks before putting them out in the fields before they've had the operation. So you'll be using your vasectomized bull. The vasectomized bull still holds the essential hormones for heat detection, like testosterone. So you're basically have the collar on that bull, put him out in the field, and we're able to indicate from his behavior and his movement around the tags exactly when cows are coming into heat. And once you get your text message, cow 123 is in heat, you're able to separate that cow from the herd, call your artificial insemination technician to the farm, or even if you do AI yourself, and then obviously serve that cow. So it's your timing of actually serving the cow, your timely intervention, that makes it critical for AI. You're waiting 12 to 16 hours for best time to serve that cow. So it gives you a long time threshold, prior to actually serving her as well. So it's an early indication.
Great, thank you Stephen. I hope that answers your question, Linda. Felly yn symud ymlaen wan, da ni am drafod chydig bach mwy amdan pwysigrwydd monitro ffrwythlondeb yn y fuches, a hefyd yr effaith mae hyn yn gallu gael ar broffidioldeb y fenter bîff. Mae Hybu Cymru wedi bod yn gweithio ar prosiect Stock Plus sydd yn galluogi ffermwyr gael cyngor 1-1 gan filfeddygon mwyn gallu asesu iechyd y ddiadell a hefyd y fuches ar ei ffermydd. Aled a Dylan a Emyr yma'n Rhiwaedog, pa werth mae bod yn rhan o'r prosiect Stock Plus wedi bod ar gyfer iechyd a ffrwythlondeb y fuches yma'n Rhiwaedog hyd yn hyn?
Wel, mae'r ffaith bod ni'n cael y cyngor 1-1 mae hynny'n werth lot fawr i ni. Mae'n hawdd iawn, mae'n handi iawn jyst cael codi ffôn ar Joe Vet neu pwy bynnag a holi cwestiynau iddo fo. Mae wedi bod yn help hefyd i fonitro y problemau iechyd efo'r buchod mawan sydd yn ail ofyn. Mae'n handi iawn gallu holi Joe be'i wneud nesaf. Mae'r cyngor yn handi iawn i ni. Yndi,
allai feddwl bod o'n werthfawr iawn i chi fel ffermwyr. A hefyd, ydych chi wedi crybwyll eisoes bod yn rhan o'r prosiect yma a cael yr ymweliad ac y cyngor 1-1 wedi galluogi chi ffocysu ar ardaloedd penodol o fewn y fuches, manna lle fysach chi'n hoffi gallu gwella, a dwi'n siŵr bod chi yn gweld y prosiect y ddefnyddiol ar gyfer gallu penderfynu pa ardaloedd ydy rheini, ac enghraifft, da chi wedi sôn wrtho fi flaenorol lle mae ffrwythlondeb oedd un o'r prif bethau nath chi bigo fyny, fysach chi'n gallu wella drwy ymweliad gan yr prosiect Stock Plus lle, a drwy gydweithio hefo Joe. Felly dwi'n falch o gallu dweud bod hynny wedi bod o fydd i chi. Felly heno mae John Richards o Hybu Cymru yn ymuno hefo ni mwyn sôn dipyn bach mwy amdano prosiect Stock Plus, ac unrhyw ganfyniadau sydd wedi dod o'r prosiect hyd yn hyn, ac y prif negeseuon allweddol maen nhw wedi ddarganfod drwy redeg y prosiect hyd yma. Felly noswaith dda, John, a diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am ymuno hefo ni heno.
Ie, dim problem, diolch yn fawr i chi am y cyfle i ddod i siarad â chi heno yn Rhiwaedog. Fi gyda rhyw 10 munud i gyflwyno bach o gwaith da ni wedi gwneud trwy'r prosiect Stock Plus. Gobeithio bod chi'n gallu clywed fi'n iawn. Dwi wedi cael bach o broblem internet yma ar y funud, ond gobeithio bod wedi trwyddo'n. Fel ydych chi'n gweud, yr prif thema y prosiect Stock Plus sydd yn dod o'r rhan yr rhaglen datblygu cig coch dyn ni'n rhedeg yn Hybu Cymru yw trio gael bach fwy o drafod y cyd-gweithio gyda ni rhwng y milfeddygon a'r ffermwyr sydd gyda ni'n Gymru, yn enwedig ar ochr cig coch wrth gwrs. A mae'n diddorol iawn clywed amdano'r prosiect sy'n mynd man yn Rhiwaedog, achos amser dyn ni edrych ar y canlyniadau sydd wedi dod allan o'r prosiect hyd at yma, a hyd at yma, dyn ni gyda dros 150 o ffermwyr cigeidion yn Gymru yn rhan o fe. A mae dros 50% wedi gweud taw un o'r sialensau fwyaf maen nhw'n mae'n edrych arno yn ei fuches nhw yw ffrwythlondeb. A mae hwnnw yn ei hunan yn dangos pwy mor bwysig yw hwnnw, achos wrth gwrs, os ni mae'n edrych arno sut i wneud fwy o arian yn system sy'n gallu fod yn reit galed i wneud arian cigeidion, y peth fwyaf amdano hwnnw yw llo bob blwyddyn. A chywod, gyda dros 50% yn gweud taw hwnna yw y peth fwyaf. Wrth gwrs, mae ffrwythlondeb yn gallu meddwl lot o bethau. Os ni edrych ar figurau, rhan fwyaf o'r 50% yma, na beth maen nhw moyn edrych arno yw yr adeg a pwy mor hir yw i amser lloian o dde. Os bosib gallu gael yr amser tarwa lawr, mwyn gallu gael amser llai o amser ar y hyd gyda amser lloia. Peth arall, da ni'n edrych arno yw pwy lloi i gadw mlaen de, pwy heffrod i gadw mlaen i'r fuches magu. Mae'r maint y pelvis, neu pelvic scoring yn dod yma yn eitha aml, a na beth sy'n dda i glywed a gweld, yw mae fwy a fwy o fuddion yn Gymru yn gallu gwneud y gwaith yma. Mae hwnna, wrth gwrs, yn hollol bwysig, achos dyn ni'n gwneud y dywys yma o ran pwy heffer i cadw mlaen, a tueddu fod dyn ni'n mynd at maint neu edrych ar y breeding. Wrth gwrs, os nag yw'r neu os nag yw'r buwch a'r heffer yn iawn i gadw, wrth gwrs, dim ond problem gall dod, a wedyn, wrth gwrs, mae'r challenge yma, dyn ni ddim tueddu moyn gwared ar heffer yn y flwyddyn gyntaf, a wedyn dyn ni cadw i mlaen, a wedyn nyprych chi gallu gael prolonged calving period yma. So mae fe rhywbeth dyn ni gweld o hyd o hyd, a rheswm am hynny wrth gwrs ydy amser a cost. Dyn ni'n gwybod bod, amser ni edrych ar y gwaith costau cynhyrchu, mae'r margin sy'n y system cigeidion yn gallu fod yn eitha tyn ar y degau. A wrth gwrs, dim ond un cyfle gallwch chi gweud ni'n mynd i gallu gael arian allan o bob buwch, a mae bob diwrnod mae'r fuwch ddim yn llo yn costi. Ar y funud, ni edrych ar y gyfartaledd, a mae gyfartaledd y fuwch sugno gyda ni ar y funud tua 420 o dyddiau. So mae'n meddwl mae 60 o dyddiau yn bob buwch sydd gyda ni, mae cyfle i berhau yr calving interval yma. Wrth gwrs, mae'n challenge i gallu gael lawr i 365, be bydde utopian ffigur mewn ffordd, ond y challenge yw, oedden ni gallu gael lawr i 400, os ni gallu gael lawr i fyna, bydd y fuches yn lle lot fwy hyblyg. O ran, os ni edrych ar y iechyd a beth yw'r sialensau eraill sydd gyda ni, infectious diseases sydd yn dod lan nesaf, a wrth gwrs mae hwnnw gallu meddwl llawer o gwannol clefydau yn dod mewn i hwnnw, a wedyn dyn ni cwmpa mewn i pethau fel clefyd edrych ar all-worm control a ffliwc a'r hynny sydd teddol yn nesaf, a hefyd biosecurity. Dyna beth dyn ni'n edrych amdano, a maen nhw'n dod lan yn llawer o'r prosiectau a'r gwybodaeth sydd o'r allan. A dyna yn y beth ni'n gweithio yn y prosiect yw, mae fe'n iawn gael y gwybodaeth i ddechrau bant, ond wedyn ni mae eisiau'r relationship na gyda'r milfeddyg wedyn ni, i gallu gael y sgwrs mewn mis, a wedyn ni gallu gael y sgwrs mewn flwyddyn, a gweud, reit, o'n i wedi edrych ar y rhain fel rhai o serensau, i ni fel diwydiant, yn chi fel ffarm, beth sydd wedi cael ei wneud, odi'r actions yma wedi cael ei wneud, a os maen nhw, beth yw'r manteision sydd wedi digwydd, a beth yw'r results canlyniadau ni wedi cael. Os mae wedi gwella, os nag yw dyfed yn beth oedd y broblem yn y lle gynta, wedyn ni edrych ar beth gallai fod y broblem. A chybod, mae fe'r challenge sydd gyda ni o hyd yn y diwydiant, yw does dim un fel ateb gloi i gael yn ymffodus. Mae'r jigsaw yn gymbleth, a mae rhaid i bob darn fod yn iawn er mwyn gallu gael y system i weithio. A chybod, wrth i ni gael, yna beth sy'n dda am ti'r prosiect yma, a'r un peth a'r prosiectau sydd gyda cyswllt ffermio, mae fe'n prosiect 3 blynedd. Wedyn ni mae'n meddwl, mae 3 blynedd o gweithio gyda'r milfeddyg, a wrth gwrs, na beth ni gyda yn wedig yn y system cigeidio, mae amser hir yn gallu digwydd rhwng ni dechrau newid y system a pryd ni gael y mantais llawn allan o hynny de. So mae fe'n yn y flwyddyn gyntaf, fel ni gweud, ni wedi cael canlyniadau y flwyddyn gyntaf allan o fe. Na beth sy'n dda iawn yw mae dros 90% o'r ffermwyr dyn ni wedi gofyn amdano o ran rhywun sydd wedi bod yn y prosiect am dros flwyddyn, wedi gweld bod mantais wedi bod. Peth fwyaf maen nhw'n gweld yw siarad gyda milfeddyg, tueddu fod dyn ni'n mynd i'r milfeddyg am sy'n mae problem. Mae hwn nawr yn mynd i'r milfeddyg, a yn y beth sy'n honnodd bwysig i'r prosiect yw bod ni'n gweithio off data. Wedyn ni casglu'r data cyn bod y milfeddyg yn mynd allan i'r ffarm, a dyn ni gweud, wel, dyma beth yw'r perfformiad y ffarm. So wedyn ni gallu'n gweithio gyda milfeddyg, gweld ble mae hwnna'n cymaru gyda un ffermydd arall yr ardal, a'r ail beth wedyn ni yw y diwydiant cyfan. So ni'n gallu gweld ble mae fe'n digwydd, falle bydd y ffarmwr yn dechrau gweld, wel, mae'n problem gyda fi gyda hyn. Ond wrth gwrs, na beth sy'n bwysig yw gallu ffindo mas ble mae'r problem wedi dechrau. So na beth dyn ni gweld yw mantes y prosiect a gallu gweithio gyda milfeddyg yn amser hir. O ran amser, dwi'n sicr does dim gormod amser gyda fi 10 munud o gyda fi siarad, ond dwi wedi rhoi cwpl o sleidydd hefyd i dangos beth yw'r prisiau farchnad ar y funed, achos mae hwnnw wastad yn rhywbeth dyn ni'n meddwl amdano. So os gallwn ni gael y sleids i fyny, dyn ni gallu gweld ar y funed. Dyma sleid i chi yn dangos beth yw'r pris o ran ochr cigon. Dyn ni gallu gweld yn yr wythnos wedwydd marchnadol da byw. Ni'n gallu gweld bod ni wedi ar lefel, dyn ni heb gweld amser hyn o fan. Mae yna gwahanol resymau amdano hwnna, dyn ni'n gweld faint o mewnforio sydd wedi dod mewn i wlad yn cylhau. A hefyd yr mae fel Muslim newydd fwlyd, a wedyn mae hwnnw wedi helpu cryfhau y prisiau, a dyn ni'n gallu gweld yn diweddar. Nawr, mae hwnna i diwedd wythnos diwetha, dyn ni wedi gweld yn y dyddiau gyntaf wythnos hyn, mae'r pris wedi dod nôl rhyw 10 i 15 cynhyrchiant, ond i gymaru amser ein llynedd a blynyddoedd cynt, dyn ni'n gallu gweld bod y pris yn dal yn sefyll yn weddol gryf. Os ni'n mynd mlaen sleid nawr, dyn ni'n gallu gweld o ran ochr cigeidion. Dyma ble i ni, wrth gwrs, o'na lot o bryder yn y farchnad nôl y mis Mawrth amser dechreuodd Covid, a ni'n gallu gweld pam o ran y llinell glas yna, ble mae prisiau. A wrth gwrs, na beth digwyddodd ar ôl hynny, o'n i gyda'r pris lawr ar lefel yna, ond y reswm am hynny, oedd faint o gig oedd yn cael ei brynu fel brywgig neu mins, a wedyn ni digwyddodd hwnna yn cwpl o wythnosau fel oedd y Covid yn dechrau, ond wedyn ni wedi gweld ers mis Ebrill, mae pris wedi gwella rhywfaint, a wedyn mae wedi gwella wythnos ar wythnos, a ar y funed, dyn ni'n gallu gweld, o'n i'n edrych ar 2018 fel blwyddyn da o ran prisiau, mae'r pris wedi mynd o flaen y ochr yna, a dyn ni'n gallu gweld ar y funed, mae'r galw yn mynd dros beth yw y lefel y cynnyrch sydd ymlaen i'r farchnad. So, dyn ni'n gallu gweld o ran y ffermwyr, byddwn ni'n gweud bod y graff yn mynd yn siarp iawn de, ond dyn ni'n gallu gweld mae hwnna'n sefyllfa, mae fe'n sefyllfa weddol cryf i diwydiant ar hyn o bryd. O ran gwybodaeth i'r farchnad, jyst rhoi bach o plug i'r gwybodaeth sydd gyda ni ar y wefan. Dyn ni gyda lot o ystadegau yn y llyfrau yma a'r bwletin a hefyd ar wefan, so os mae unrhyw gyda diddordeb. Hefyd o'n i'n meddwl byddai'r rheina sy'n gwrando heno gyda bach o diddordeb am gwaith marchnata dyn ni wedi bod yn gwneud yn diweddar. A ar y cynta o mis Awst bob blwyddyn, dyn ni gael o hwnna'n Lamb's Day, neu ni wedi cael yn Cigon, a dyn ni'n gallu gweld fyna peth o'r gwaith marchnata dyn ni wedi gwneud dros yr adeg yma, a dyn ni'n gweld mae'r lluniau yma a'r gwaith yma dyn ni wedi gwneud wedi bod yn mynd allan trwy social media, a hyn i gyd yn deall, bod y pris cigon yn dal weddol cryf ar y funud, dyn ni yn mynd mewn i'r adeg y flwyddyn, ble mae fwy o wynd ymlaen i farchnad. So achos hynny wedyn ni, dyn ni'n gwneud yn ymgyrch ni yn dechrau ar gyntaf o Awst, a dych chi'n gweld peth o'r gwybodaeth dyn ni'n rhoi allan yna, gyda reseitiau a recipes, a dyn ni'n gweld bod hwnna'n cael tipyn o effaith. Na beth dyn ni hefyd yn gwneud yw trio rhoi reseitiau sy'n gynt i bobl coginio, mwyn trio cadw pris mor uchel a ni gallu yn ystod y flwyddyn. A wrth gwrs mae hwnna'n dod yn adeg y flwyddyn amser mae nifer yr anifeiliaid sydd ymlaen i farchnad yn cynyddu. Wedyn ni, o'n i'n meddwl i Cai byddwn ni rhoi bach o gwybodaeth i chi ynglyn â beth i ni wedi bod yn gwneud o ran Hybu Cymru yn ystod yr adeg yma'n diweddar. Diolch.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi, John. Dwi yn ymwybodol bod ni'n rhedeg chydig ar ei hôl i ran amser, ond mae yna 2 gwestiwn sydyn wedi dod i mewn i chi, os fedrwch chi atab, os gwelwch y dda, John. Mae'r cynta'n gofyn os oes posib cysylltu ffawl hefo, os oes posib cysylltu y Project Stock Plus efo cynllunio iechyd ffawl.
Os, a chybod, yn y beth yw, dim mwyn cynhyrchu planiau iechyd newydd yw'r prosiect yma. Mae fe fwy i wneud gyda edrych arno beth yw'r perfformiad, a wedyn fel rhan o'r gwaith yna, bydd y milfeddyg yn edrych ar beth yw'r health plan sydd gyda'r ffarmwr, a gweld uniongyrchol, odi hwnna'n iawn amdano'r ffarm a'r perfformiad fel mae fe'r digwydd, achos wrth gwrs, na beth yw'r challenge yw, mae'r dygfennau yma, dyn nhw ddim yn static, mae pethau newid o flwyddyn i flwyddyn, a fel mae'n bwysig iawn i gallu newid beth yw'r planiau a beth yw'r health plan i mynd gyda beth yw'r flwyddyn a beth yw'r perfformiad. Wedyn ni, mae fe'n part pwysig er mwyn edrych ar beth yw'r rhaglen iechyd sydd ar y fferm a wedyn gweld oddi hwnna nawr yn dilyn beth yw'r technoleg newydd, achos dyn ni gweld technoleg yma nawr, a'r gwybodaeth, achos mae gwybodaeth a llawer y gwaith ymchwil yn cael ei wneud trwy'r amser o ran iechyd anifeiliaid. Mae'n bwysig bod hwnna'n cael ei dangos wedyn ni ar ffermydd hyd a lled Cymru.
Gwych, John, diolch. Ac yr cwestiwn ola ar eich cyfer chi heno, oes na bosib bod sut mae posib bod yn rhan o'r prosiect Stock Plus? Oes na feini prawf neu beth ydy'r drefn fel arfer os ydych chi yn frwdfrydig i fod yn rhan o'r prosiect hwn?
Ie, wel, ar y funud, dyn ni gyda 200 o ffermwyr ar y prosiect. A'r canlyniad i'r prosiect bydden ni moyn 400 o ffermwyr. Wedyn, dyn ni yn edrych am rhagor o ffermwyr. Wrth gwrs, fel arfer, bydden ni wedi agor lan ffenest i pobl gallu ymgeisio i fod yn rhan o prosiect. Ond wrth gwrs, achos Covid, mae'n meddwl bod ni heb gallu mynd allan i fferm. Wedyn ni, dyn ni wedi gohirio yr ffenest nesaf o ran trio ffermwyr mewn i prosiect yr hydre. Wedyn ni bydden ni'n gobeithio amser deith mis Hydref a gobeithio bydd sefyllfa Covid wedi gwella rhywfaint ar bynau. Bydd chi'n gweld bod ni'n rhoi gwybodaeth allan i'r diwydiant yn mynd i sut i gallu fod yn rhan o'r prosiect yma'n symud ymlaen dros y 2 flynedd nesaf.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi, John, amdan eich cyflwyniad heno ac amdan yr atebion hynny. Dwi'n siŵr bod yna llawer mwy o wybodaeth amdan y Project Stock Plus a gweddill o waith y BC Cymru ar ei gwefan hwy os ydych chi eisiau mynd draw yno i gael golwg. Wrth symud ymlaen hefyd, swn i'n hoffi eich atgoffa am clinigau iechyd anifeiliaid 1 sydd yn cael eu cynnig drwy cyswllt ffermio ar hyn o bryd. Mae hein yn edrych ar nifer eang o wahanol faterion iechyd, maen nhw'n gallu cyfro profi gwaed, profi am glafr ag ati, ffrwythlondeb, meheryn a teirw hefyd, fecal counting a hefyd postmortems mewn stoc hefyd. Ac fel dwi wedi sôn yn flaenorol, mae yna estyniad wwan ar gyfer y rhaglen gwaredu BVD tan ddiwedd mis Mawrth blwyddyn nesaf hefyd. Felly, yn symud ymlaen heno rwan, fyswn i'n licio sôn chydig mwy amdano y prosiect glaswell da ni wedi bod yn ei gyflawni yma yn Rhiwaedog. Aled, Dylan ac Emyr, dwi'n ymwybodol fod glaswell yn elfen hanfodol bwysig o'r system yma yn Rhiwaedog. A hefyd bod chi yn frwdfrydig i edrych arno fel man ar gyfer gweithio a gwella tuag at y dyfodol drwy fod y rhan ag yn Fferm Arddangos i cyswllt ffermio mewn ffordd. Allwch chi egluro jyst chydig pam bod hwn yn elfen bwysig a be ydych chi'n obeithio gael allan o wella glaswellt yma ac cynyddu effeithlonrwydd drwy wella'r system glaswellt ag ati?
Dwi'n meddwl, y glaswellt ydy'r aset mwyaf sgennon ni ar y ffarm, a wedyn mae rhywun yn trio cael y mwyaf allan o'no fo, hynny allan ni gael allan o'no fo. O ran y prosiect, da ni wedi bod yn treialu gwahanol fathau o nitrogen i weld pa un cymharu urea hefo protected urea ac urea yn erbyn ammonium nitrate, jyst i weld beth sy'n gweithio orau ar wahanol adegau o'r flwyddyn. Y prosiect arall, da ni wedi gwneud ydy ailhadu cae efo'r herbal lace yma i gael gweld os afantes o ran pesgi wyn. So, trio bethau gwahanol, da ni, wel, ar hyd yn oes, da ni wedi gweld dim byd, ond ailhadu mae dad a taid erioed wedi bod yn ailhadu. A wedyn, da ni jyst yn trio cario ymlaen efo be maen nhw wedi gwneud erioed, ond falle trio troi ambell i gae i falle cynhyrchu mwy o'r herbal lace yma sydd yn mynd i wneud i'n haws i ni a bosib pesgu mwy o wyn o ddar y borfa. Ie,
a ydych chi'n gobeithio bod gwella effeithlonrwydd drwy'r system, drwy wella glaswellt a drwy edrych ar multi-species le ag ati, bod hynny'n mynd i dorri ar gosta dwysfyd ar gyfer pesgi wyn ag ati hefyd, ydy hwnnw'n elfen eithaf pwysig ohono fo i chi yma yn Rhiwaedog?
Wel, dyna di'r gobeith. Byddwn ni'n gallu gwario llai ar ddwysfwyd a bod y glaswelltir gwneud y job.
Ie.
Gobeithio.
Ie. Wel, maen nhw yn deud na i glaswellt ydy'r ffynhonnell fwyaf rhad sydd ar gael i ni fatha ffermwyr o fwyd mewn ffordd. Felly, Chris Dyler ydy'r arbenigwr sydd wedi bod yn cydweithio hefo teulu Rhiwaedog a cyswllt ffermio ar y prosiect glaswellt yma. Felly, awn ni drosodd i Chris i gael dysgu mwy amdan y prosiect. Good evening, Chris. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you're keeping well. We've just been discussing some of the key objectives, really, of improving grassland here at Rhiwaedog. So could you give us a bit more of an insight into the work that you've been doing here and any of the relevant projects that you've been working on as well?
Good evening, everybody. Nice to join you tonight. Yeah, I'm just going to take you through a couple of projects. As we say, we started off. Let's just remind you all that it wasn't many years ago that Rhiwaedog won the national grassland management competition. So, you know, we're starting from a high baseline in terms of grassland management, and I'm in now looking at projects where we can just tweak the system slightly, improve efficiencies, make it a little bit more robust and sustainable and able to cope with some of these extreme sort of climate events that we seem to be getting. So yeah, one area that we started looking at this spring was nitrogen use on the farm. Alid and the gang have been using a little bit of urea in the spring and then primarily ammonium nitrate for silage. In recent years, we've developed a protected urea product which prevents the ammonia loss that we often see with using urea. So urea is fine when it's wet and cold. All that nitrogen in urea breaks down slowly and doesn't leach, and grass growth is great. But as soon as I start seeing temperatures rise about 12 degrees and above, then I can lose 30, 40+% of my nitrogen upwards as ammonia. The real benefit of urea is it's cheaper than nitrogen as ammonium nitrate. So we're looking at about 20% saving. That's what attracts people to using urea. And certainly for the Joneses, when they're flat out lambing, it's nice to get fertilizer down, and the urea kind of has a longer lasting effect than ammonium nitrate, which tends to be very soluble in the system, but maybe doesn't last quite as long. So what we looked at this year was replacing some of the urea with protected urea. So first dressing, we went out, Alid went out. It was April, so later than usual. If you cast your minds back, March wasn't a happy month. It rained and it rained. So ground conditions kind of limit us to when we could get out on fields. And basically we went out with 35 kilos of the treated urea and then compared that with a standard urea product. Basically, I would have loved to have gone up and measured grass, but that job fell to Alid. So there he is with his tape measure, measuring sward heights. So we've got half the field that was done with protected urea, half the field that was standard urea, and we also had a control area with no fertilizer applied. And using this protected urea this spring, estimated based on Alid's pictures, I'm looking at somewhere around about 30% increase in growth by using those different products. So we've kept the nitrogen in the system and grown an extra 600-700 kilos of dry matter per hectare by switching over. So the next step of the project was to extend that now to look at silage. Normally we'd say don't use urea once I get into warm months, but with the protected urea, which prevents that volatilisation, we should be able to continue to use this cheaper product than ammonium nitrate right through the season. I say should, because we went out middle of May, so everything got 75 kilos of protected urea, which gives me about 70 units of nitrate of nitrogen per acre, and we mirrored that with 2 bags of ammonium nitrate. Now, again, if you remember May, very dry, and in reality, we actually grew less grass with the protected urea than ammonium nitrate. Now, all the trials that have been done, an awful lot have been done over in Ireland. All of the trials have come back, have shown that there is no yield penalty for using treated urea. The caveat to that is in extremely dry and prolonged dry conditions this through May, we think that the urea protection broke down because, as I say, we grew 20% less grass, and And it was that sustained period of maybe 15, 18 days with no rain that the prills didn't break down and the nitrogen was lost as ammonia. It's a project we want to repeat going forward. We'll have another go next year and see if we can get any different results. But certainly it's an area of great interest across the world. You know, we've seen the horrible pictures come out of Beirut. You know, ammonium nitrate, if we can get away from either the losses involved, certainly the carbon footprint and some of the issues of stability, and look at other products, then it makes an awful lot of sense. So that's the first project we kicked off this spring. The next one I want to talk about is a project looking at increasing sward quality. And I say there's not masses we can do at Rhiwaedog. A lot of the swards are very, very good. But having said that, they've already fed 5 tonne of creep to lambs this spring to try and hit those prices that John was talking about in May, June time. What would be really good is if we could get some higher quality in some of the lays, just so that we can push a bunch of lambs forward. And it might be 150, 200 lambs that we can get away on grass rather than relying on creep. So the field was cultivated early this season. I'm going to say May now. Aled will fill us in on the dates. So it's ploughed, disced over, rolled well, because obviously we were struggling to keep moisture in. I visited the farm last week. One of the lads came careering across the field on his push bike. So I know seedbed consolidation was excellent. And the lay is up. I think we've got a video clip from today in the drizzle. I've got some grading cages out there so we can monitor some yield production. And we're also going to have a detailed look at exactly what species have come in. So as you can see, those aren't weeds. They're supposed to be there. Okay. I've got a range of different grasses. The seed mix that we've gone for is what I would call, fairly wide in its remit. So we've got cocksfoot and timothy, very little actually perennial ryegrass. So we're down at 4% perennial ryegrass. I've got some fescue lolium, which is a cross between a fescue and a ryegrass. We've got meadowfescue, let's say timothy and cocksfoot. Add into that various clovers, as well as sandfoin, which is also a legume. And all these are going to be high in protein and high in quality. So hopefully we'll be able to push animals forward in the spring. There's also some pretty stuff in there as well. And we've got things like your chicory and your plantains. So it's a real mix of goodies in there. These sort of mixtures, if we look across the border in England, they're getting paid £300 a hectare on the HLS schemes to establish and maintain these lays. So it's something that we might well see more in terms of where subsidy structure goes. Maybe they'll serve a very useful purpose on a lot of beef and sheep farms if we're going to get paid for having a massively diverse lay that also contributes to production. So some of the issues really that we want to look at going forward are how the quality pans out, what it does for animal performance. Can we actually get animals forward on it in May and June and achieve growth rates 200, 250 grams per day? And then I guess the bigger question is, will it like Rhiwaedog? Does it like Bala? In the wet, in the cold? Is it going to persist? Because what we don't want to do, these lays aren't cheap, is make this huge investment and then find actually that it doesn't like the system. We will possibly have to tweak a little bit about grazing management and try and give it a bit of a love and a hug, certainly over winter. But I think, there'll be some interesting answers coming out of this project just to see how it behaves. Following on from that, later in the summer, we're going to establish another multi-species lay, more geared towards what we know. So certainly the plantain and the chicories, probably less complicated, because chances are it's going to be in the silage system as well. So we want something that's a little bit more robust. But yeah, we'll monitor that going forward. While I was here, I just wanted to take you through another project I've been working with on multi-species lays. In 2018, we established 3 lays on farms down in near Bridgend as part of a European Innovation Project. And we've been monitoring that performance for the last 2.5 years. We're into its final year now. And I just wanted to take you through, I think I've got a few videos. Basically, the title of the project is to look at establishing it in marginal conditions, because we see a lot of research focus on looking at multi-species lays on very nice fields in lovely places like Aberystwyth. So I want to challenge them. So we've gone up in the world, and really to address this question is, are they really an option for marginal areas? This morning I'm here at Brinkwood Farm near Blackmill in the South Wales Valleys to do a monitoring visit on the EIP multi-species lay project. So this is the multi-species lay that we sowed in June 2018. As you can see, we're fairly high up in the world. It is a tough old place to farm. Every month I come up here through the summer to sample the grass. Basically, we've had a grazing cage in place for the last 3.5 weeks. This is what we've grown under that cage, and this is what I've just sampled. So I've sampled 0.1 of a square metre, which will get then dried, weighed, and we do periodic analysis for protein and energy and trace elements. The multi-species lay itself, you can see currently is fairly dominated by white clover. There is some chicory still in the plots, and also some plantain. In terms of grasses, I've got timothy, perennial ryegrass, but also we've got some festuloleum as well. We did have red clover in the beginning. There's not a heap of the red clover anymore. I think the sheep have predominantly grazed that out, and currently the chicory and the plantain are on the way out. They have done their 2 years, and there are plants here, but not a huge number. One of the issues we've got here is the fact that we've got creeping thistle coming in. You know, I've got nothing I can spray this multi-species lay that will take the thistle out and leave all the goodies intact. So the plan is we're just going to hit these with a weed wiper at the end of the week, and try and tidy them up a bit. But it is an issue. Weed control in multi-species lays isn't going to be easy. So Richard Morgan, who farms up here, was keen to reduce his nitrogen usage and saw the multi-species lays as a good way of doing that. So throughout the project, this has had a bag of DAP in the spring, so that's 18 units of nitrogen, 46 of phosphate, and that's been it. And certainly last year in the project, we measured over 12 tonne of dry matter produced from that small amount of nitrogen input. As you can see, the clover's very dominant and will be producing somewhere in the region of 120 plus units of nitrogen a year. Richard, this was your idea, your bright idea, this multi-species lays. Why were you interested in looking at multi-species lays here on the farm?
Well, just to reduce the costs and improve our stock health, really. To look at more mineral content probably in the lays and improve overall health on the stock.
Every time I come up here, you seem to have more sheep on this field. It's carried a lot of stock?
Yes, carried a hell of a lot of stock, especially early in the spring. There's tremendous growth in the spring and towards the back end of the year. The sheep seem to graze the herbal lay before the standard lay more, so that the sheep are telling you that is obviously a more palatable grass. So yeah, very pleased with the herbal lay actually.
This is a fairly free draining field, but it still does muddy up in the winter. Do you get a chance to give it a break over winter?
Yeah, well, we shut it off from about the end of December till we start lambing about the middle of March, and then we put ewes and lambs on then, so it's rested through the winter. Yeah.
You had a gang of cattle up here as well earlier on this season?
Yeah, we do some wean calves, buying calves to rear on from dairy herds. So yeah, and they were looking really tight in the spring because we had a very dry spring. And this has made them in the summer. They've grown well through the summer on this, but they've been just set stock here. We haven't rotation grazed them. With the sheep, we usually mob graze on and off, but the cattle have been set stock because we were short on grass.
Going forward, do you see you sowing another multi-species lays?
Yeah, next year we probably, after turnips, we'll definitely put another herbal lay in. Yes, definitely.
And are your neighbours interested? Are they looking over the fence going, what's he growing all those weeds?
As farmers, usually we don't say a lot. We just wait for a couple of years and then all of a sudden you might see a lay spring up. So that tells you. We don't say a lot really.
Grand, thanks. I'm here at Brinkwood Farm where Phil Thomas and his family farm. We're in his multi-species lay. Again, established in the summer of 2018, so now 2 years old. The difference with this farm is it's very much a wetter situation. Just over the fence, you can possibly see there's a field full of predominantly rushes, and that's where we were in this field when it was reseeded. There was a lot of rushes coming in, and certainly the drainage wasn't wonderful in places, so we were really putting our multi-species lay to the test. After 2 years, you can see hopefully that, yeah, we've got a significant amount of chicory still in the sward, but a lot of the clover has gone, and certainly the plantain hasn't really survived the wetter conditions. Phil has been running cattle through here this spring, so since late April we've had a bunch of 75 cattle in here for 3 or 4 weeks on a block grazing system, and then it's had a 3 or 4 week break. They've been through again, and I think we're not far off running through another mob through here in the next week or two. This field really performed quite well in the spring. I think it's been driven by the festulolium grass, which has really responded well to the wetter conditions. So Phil has been delighted with spring performance. It has tended to tail off a bit later in the season. But I say, we had started off with the same seed mix as we had up at Gellifedgar, but we've got a completely different end result in terms of the species present.
Chris, just a few questions coming in for you here. A question from Paul Caehydd. Chris, this year has been very challenging for spring reseeds with extremely bad chickweed and red shank infestations. How would you recommend managing these?
Yes, I was walking on the other day, very weedy. If I can avoid spraying, I will. I hate spraying reseeds. So the beautiful thing about a spring reseed is I've got lots of opportunities to graze it, top it, mow it, whatever I can do physically to get on top of certainly the annual weeds like red shank, fat hen. Worst case scenario, yes, we can hit it with a spray. And then there will possibly be opportunities to fill in the gaps. You know, we're still in August, and if there are patches, certainly on areas that are burnt off or where the chickweed has dominated, then, you know, a good hard rake, get some bare ground, and we've still got opportunity to stitch some more seed in. I say, yeah, spray is an option. It's last on my list. If I can avoid it, I will.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. As Chris mentioned, we are still in the early days for these projects, so keep an eye out on the Farming Connect website for more updates. We will be releasing these quite regularly from now on. So Chris, there are no other questions for you at the moment, so thank you very much for joining us tonight and for giving us such a detailed insight into the work that you've been doing here at Rhiwaedog. We very much appreciate your input tonight. So, mwyn symud ymlaen, gabon ni yn brin o'r amser ag yn dod i derfyn heno. Mwyn cloi heno, swn i'n hoffi croesawu Eryl P. Roberts, sef swyddog datblygu ar gyfer yr ardal leol yma, Meirionnydd. Jyst mwyn rhoi chydig bach mwy o wybodaeth i ni am wasanaethau cyswllt-ffermio, a hefyd beth sydd ar y gweill ar hyn o bryd. Felly, drosodd i chi, Eryl.
Wel, anwyl gyfeillion noswaith dda i chi gyd. Dwi am ddod sydyn trwy'r gwahanol wasanaethau sydd ar gael gyn cyswllt ffarmio. Y fama, y cymorthfeydd, mae'r rhain wedi bod yn boblogaidd iawn yn ystod yr aflwyd yma. Ac fel ydych chi'n gweld, mae'n edoreth o bynciau sy'n bosib i cael anyn nhw. A rydych chi'n cael hyd at awr o drafodaeth dros y ffôn gyn arbenigwr y llunde. Ac mae adborth da iawn wedi bod gan rei sydd wedi bod yn y cymorthfeydd hyn. A da chi'n bod fel enghraifft cyfreithiol, hefo cyfrifydd, coetir, athnacta arall gyfeirio a cynllunio. Wel, mae'n restr ohonyn nhw ar y we. Right, next slide. Hyfforddiant. Mae'r cyfnod ymgeisio ar gyfer hyfforddiant nesaf yn agos ar y 7th o Fedi tan y 10th ar 20 o Hydref, ac mae yna hyd at 80% o gymorthaf ar gael at rhan fwyaf o gyrsiau. A wedyn mi fydd y ffenest yn agor fel yn dweud ar y 7th o Fedi, a mi fedrwch chi rhoi cais i fewn o hwnny. Next slide, please. A wedyn, y rei addysgu yma, cyrsiau dysgu rhyngweithiol ydy'r rhain, fel medrwch chi wneud nhw o adre. Mae'r manylion i gyd ar wefan cyswllt ffarmio, a da chi'n medru mynd arnyn nhw o adre a gwneud y cyrsiau ar y cyfrifiadur. A wedyn mae hynny'n cael ei gofnodi ar eich dogfennau chi. Next. A wedyn, clinig anifeiliaid, mae Gwawr wedi sôn am rhain yn barod, ond maen nhw'n bethau poblogaidd iawn, ac mae dipyn o alw amdanyn nhw hefo samplo profi a cyngor 1 gan feddyg lleol ar wahanol afiechydon neu beth bynnag, a mae'n ystod eang iawn o bethau ellir gwneud drwy'r clinigau yma. Ydyn cymerwch fantes ohonyn nhw, maen nhw yn rhai da. Iawn, next. Wedyn dyma ni y restr fama o'r tîm cysylltwyr fferm. Maen nhw wastad yn barod iawn i helpu a rhoi wybodaeth diweddara ar datblygiadau sydd gen y Llywodraeth. Felly mae'n restr yn fanne ohonyn nhw yn y gwahanol ardaloedd a maen nhw yn barod iawn i bob tro. Ac wedyn, swyddogion datblygu, next slide, y swyddogion datblygu cyswllt fferm fel finne. Mae'r rhestr yn fama ar y wefan, y rhestr yn gyflawn, fel chi methu dod o hyd i'ch swyddog datblygu lleol. Mi fedrwch chi weld ar fanne pwy di'r un lleol, ac mae manylion cyswllt yna hefyd, fel bod chi'n medru cysylltu hefo fo, neu hi. A wedyn, am ragor o wybodaeth, mi fedrwch chi gysylltu efo'r brif swyddfa yn Aberystwyth. Dyna ni. Diolch yn fawr.
Gret, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi, Eryl. Swn i'n hoffi cymryd y cyfle yma hefyd i annog chi fel ffermwyr a choedwigwyr i fanteisio ar yr holl gwasanaethau sgynnon ni fel cyswllt ffermio ar gyfer gwella eich busnes chi. Hefyd, os ydych chi, fel oedd Eryl yn sôn, os ydych chi eisiau mwy o wybodaeth amdan y gwasanaethau yma, mae'n groeso chi gysylltu efo'ch swyddog datblygu lleol. Mae manylion hwy ar y wefan cyswllt ffermio, neu fedrwch chi gysylltu hefo y brif swyddfa yn Aberystwyth yn uniongyrchol. Felly, os nad oes unrhyw rhagor y gwestiynau, mi ydym ni'n dod yma, ni'n dod i derfyn yma heno, felly hoffwn ni ddiolch i chi ein cynulleidfa heno am ymuno hefo ni, ein holl siaradwyr, ac yn bennaf oll hefyd, diolch arbennig i'r teulu yma'n Rhiwaedog am ein croesawu ni yma, ac am gydweithio hefo ni ar yr holl brosiecta fel Fferm Arddangos i cyswllt ffermio, da ni ddiolchgar iawn ohonoch chi. Felly, ambell beth sydyn cyn cloi, hoffwn eich atgoffa chi, plis, os fedrwch chi lenwi'r ffurflen werthuso, fyddwch chi'n ei dderbyn ar ôl y gwebinar hwn. Mae hyn yn bennaf mwyn ein bod ni'n gallu gwella ein gwasanaethau i'r dyfodol mewn ffordd, a bod chi'n cael cyfle i leisio'ch barn ar y gwebinar yma heno. Hefyd, mae'r webinar wedi cael ei recordio heno, a wedyn mi fydd hwn yn cael ei ddangos ar gwefan cyswllt ffermio, ac mae groeso chi fynd draw i gael ailolwg gan efo, so ydych chi'n teimlo fatha bod chi wedi methu rhywbeth neu angen ail edrych drosto eto. Felly, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd a noswaith dda. Thank you and good night.